Okay, let's see. What time do you have?
11 o'clock.
Okay, 10, we're not going to, I'll mark. I'm going to read something first. Okay.
Yep, it's 10:02.
Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to Sunday morning Church of Immaculate Perception. That's what I've named AA.
Did you tell her my subtitle?
Lee has a subtitle.
Or die, motherfucker.
Or die. Yeah, the Church of Immaculate Perception. I love it. Just have a perception, walk into a meeting, and you get rid of it pretty fast, you know. Oh, never thought that way before. Anyway, welcome to Sunday morning. So I received a letter from one of the teachers named Ken Lazadowski, who's in the East Coast, who happens to be a marvelous Infinite Way teacher, and cutest little thing. He is. I happened to attend his class in Phoenix last year, and he's just pure Joel principle. He's wonderful, but received a very short letter, his Christmas letter, and I opened it about 2 this morning, and I went, oh, I know why I opened this now. And we're going to have 15 minutes of meditation this morning, and I was inspired by his letter. Says, you have been given the fullness of Christ. This declaration remains empty of practicality, however, unless we understand that Christ to be the living truth in consciousness. We must then follow through with meditation to facilitate the birth of truth. The importance of meditation is it's the way, the truth, and the life. Meditation is to spiritual living what breathing is to human living. Meditation is to spiritual healing what medication is to physical healing. Meditation is to spiritual awakening what education is to intellectual awakening. Meditation is to the soul what love is to the heart. Meditation is to consciousness what Christmas is to the world. Constant blessings, Ken. I just love that. So let's have 15 minutes this morning and enjoy the grace and the presence of that which never leaves us. Like a fish is without the ocean, I cannot breathe without the silence. welcome. Welcome again. Thank you for that beautiful silence. We're going to pick up where we left off, kind of just a little bit of a review on the way I break the steps down. The first one being the give-up steps, or that wonderful word, surrender. I can't, higher power can, and I got to let him. And then we moved into what that would be like to clean things up. You know, the whole idea is to clean it up before we leave the planet, so that we don't have to either come back and do it again, or at least we're coming back and doing some other lessons, or some other, or we bring back with us some other gift of giving and sharing and healing. And then we do the makeup, and that was the steps that we were doing to make it up to those around us for our mistaken identity of who they are. We make it up for our stories around what we assume they have done to us, who we think they are, how we label them with our own projections of fear. And then we get to those beautiful grow-up steps. And in the 12-step program, the grow-up steps are 10, 11, and 12. We've cleaned it up, we've given up, we've made up, and now we're growing up. In the script steps, we get to drop all concern, and we get to deliver love. And Barbara made a statement, and I love this statement: the world is not dying from lack of love. I'm sorry, the world is not dying from lack of information. The world is dying from lack of love. And after I heard about your book, I'm sure that's what your book was probably about, you know, how to deliver more love into the world, and how to make this a loving kingdom that, you know, we pray wherever we go. There's that Lord's Prayer that says, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." It doesn't mean tomorrow. It means right now, as I see this earth, this kingdom, through my eyes, through the eyes of God, the perfection that is here. Or do I want to look at the story and the nonsense and the crazy making? You know, it's how I see myself in the kingdom of God, in the world of love, delivering love, receiving love. It's one and the same. And we talked yesterday about troublesome people, and back to my little Paul Ferrini book, the actual reading for today, January 4th. I still use this book. It's called Everyday Wisdoms by Paul Ferrini. But the reason I've used it now, it says here 05. And I jot little things of what I've been doing since then, each year, what I'm doing that day. So it's 10 years I've been working in this book, and I never outgrow it, because it takes the 12-step program, it takes Joel, it takes psychology, it takes New Age, it takes every possible spiritual regime you could say, and blends it all into just the most practical, everyday understanding about how we misperceive, how we project it out there, how to take 100% responsibility. And this morning's is standing up for yourself without attacking others. If you are triggered by someone, acknowledge your reactivity. Don't react and attack. Don't blame. Don't project. Don't try to make someone else responsible for what you are thinking or feeling. Own your thoughts and feelings totally, and then communicate them to those who need to understand. Say, "This is about me, not you." This is what is happening for me right now. That is how the cycle of violence is broken. So it's up to us to, catch that. How can I not boomerang this right back unto myself? December 29th was, whether you know it or not, the only person you can attack is yourself. You may believe that you are attacking someone else, but that's just an illusion. Everything that you attempt to project onto others comes home to you. Thought is the perfect boomerang. It always returns to the person who sent it. So it's just such practical understanding of these principles that, we're learning to live by. And this spiritual path is a living path. I have to live it. I have to walk it. I have to. Sometimes I have to talk the talk until I can walk the talk, and then we can walk that talk. So we're up to the last segment of the Grow Up Steps, and step 10 of the 12 steps. We continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So every day we can catch that boomerang as it starts to go out. And if it goes out and come back and whacks us, it's like, oh, whoops. Spiritual. And I have this little red light that goes on back here that goes, it goes like, spiritual error, spiritual error, spiritual error, and it like goes off over, whoop, and I'll catch it as I'm saying it, go, spiritual error, you're not on the correct way. That works. It's not incorrect or correct. It means that it's going to work to serve me, and it's going to work to serve you. So, and I screw up all the time, and that little thing goes off. And so this morning at 5 a.m., the rest of what I wanted to say started to come through in the Grow Up Steps. One of the sentences that I use a lot when I come up against a difficult situation or person is, how can I best serve this situation or person for the highest good? And that always helps me get myself back on track of what's important here, how to impersonalize it. And we have a saying in AA called principles before personalities. And in the beginning of my early years, I thought that meant your personality. I've got to stay in the principle, regardless of how you're acting up. But it wasn't too long before I realized that I have to place principles before my personality, the way I think, the way my little self has conjured it up, the way I project it out there. It's principle before my little self. And so the question is, how can I best serve? And, I had a few instances in the rehab when certain people would come in. I could tell they either had their period or they had a fight with their husband, or they were having to work overtime, or, and it's like, whenever there would be just the slightest little negativity entering my room, I'd go to, how can I neutralize what's going on here? How can I best serve this person who is working for probably minimum wage, probably has many of them have 4 and 5 children at home, and we're working night shifts, and their husband's working day shifts so that someone could always, and here they are coming to help me to the bathroom, God love them, it's like, whoa, what lives they have bitten off, and I'm not going to come in there and start ragging on them, well, where's my ice water, and what's, no, my God, they're here to serve me at the best ability that they can. I couldn't do that job and go home and take care of 5 kids like these women were doing. There were 2 or 3 of them. They were young women, and they had 4 and 5 children at home, plus probably a husband who's sitting there drinking beer, watching TV, who knows. But anyway, it's how can I best... Okay, they're serving me, but how can I best serve them, So I did my best to be in a fairly good mood with most of them in spite of it all. So, the kid, this is almost an axiom that I've discovered. The kid has her needs met when she's being heard by you. Even if you aren't able to take action, what she really wants, he wants, is please hear me. Hear my pain. Hear my discontent. Hear my fear. Hear my anger. So that's all it wants. It wants you to hear it. And as I said earlier, ignoring somebody is a form of abuse. So when she's screaming at you, it's a form of abuse. If you don't stop, I hear you, I can't take care of it at this moment, but I promise you I hear it, and we will address it later. We stop suffering. This all came through this morning. We stop suffering when we take our kid to a surrogate parent to get her needs met. And that surrogate parent could be a parent, could be a sponsor, could be a spouse, could be a boyfriend, girlfriend. When we stop expecting, as an adults that we are in bodies, when we start taking 100% responsibility for that kid, and we stop taking it out there to be taken care of, we stop suffering. It just stops the suffering. Because those people aren't trained to take care of your kid. You know your kid better than anybody else, and if you don't, it's time you start listening. It's my job to listen and take that responsibility. Okay, the good news and the bad news about script is I wrote it. The good news is I wrote it. How do I tear it up? By meeting my own needs. It's so simple. Not easy. Lynn.
What's so funny is I was just thinking of asking this question. What do I do if someone's ignoring me? And then I thought it through. I'm like, whoa, that's my script.
That's right.
Like I'll always think I'll be ignored or treated with indifference or something such as that. I'm just, it's like I answered my own question.
Yeah.
I'm not being ignored.
No.
My kid's saying, why didn't you listen to me right now?
And if I'm seeing somebody out there ignore me, it's a trigger that I'm ignoring me. Or they don't. It's the funniest thing. When I stop ignoring me and I start taking care of my needs, they don't ignore me anymore. Or if they do, it's just because they're caught up in their own crap, and I don't take it personally anymore. It's like, oh, they're showing me, okay, honey, what is it you're wanting from that person you're not getting? Am I not validating you? Am I not loving you? Am I not cherishing you? Am I not honoring you? Am I not hearing you? Mostly hearing you. Then, when we meet these lovely people out here, and one of the reasons we love hanging with our spiritual family is, if you notice, we're not trying to get anything from each other. We all have our own, we take care of our own little yard, and it's comfortable, we're not trying to get something from each other, so it's so easy to be together. And when we're all taking care of our own needs, Have you ever had somebody, especially in program, they come up to you and you can almost feel the teeth in the jugular vein because they're so needy and so scared and, they don't know. Well, then at that point, we're able to give that cool cup of water temporarily. But it's like that thing. We don't give them the loaf of bread and walk away. We say, honey, this is what I did when I felt the way you felt. This is how I had to handle it. This is the step I work. This is how I walk. And, we're basically living in a culture of fix it. I'm very addicted to fixing things, making things work, making things straight, making things right, including myself. And it's a culture of gotta fix it, and that word fix is also referred to in addiction, whenever heroin addicts, they gotta have a fix, And sometimes we, in chemical dependency, we let that all go, and then we start trying to fix other people. Thus, the programs have grown up around us of Al-Anon, which teaches us detachment, codependency, adult children, when we stop trying to fix our parents, when we stop trying to fix our spouses, because it's a form of fixing, it's a form of feeling better. And it's funny, when I put all my attention onto fixing me, fixing what I'm hearing from within, fixing Mr. No, he lifted up his hand right there. You can feel their energy, you can feel that energy. And it's like we have that saying, we don't carry the alcoholic, we carry the message. And what's the message? This is what I had to do. And we start with those very first basics of showing up at meetings, reaching out your hand to somebody else, all of these principles that we have to put into action. And we show them that that's what we did. We don't go doing it for them. And sometimes you have to carry somebody down a little bit of ways till they can stand up themselves. But it's interesting that a man can't ride your back unless it's bent. So if somebody's glommed onto you and you feel the heaviness, somehow you've bent over and let them crawl up there. So, it's up to me to, allow that to change. So how we tear up the script? By meeting our own needs. And stop projecting it out there and being very, very in touch with that fantasy script. And there's a big difference in fantasy and dream. Now, I love Anne. Anne and her husband Sam have this wonderful dream of taking their children and going to a beautiful place in Oregon. How do we know that's not a fantasy? Because they're taking action. And a fantasy is something that nobody ever does anything about, but they hold out here as a fate. Oh, when this happens, when I just get him, when I just move, whenever it stays this fantasy, but we never take action on it. Because if we do, then there's a part of us that crumbles because we hold that out there. It'll be better when. It's going to be okay when. Now, if it's your God destiny track, and Barbara Muhl was good at explaining this part, if it's really what your destiny is on the planet, you start taking action, even if it's baby steps. Like they went up and looked at little towns and went around and did the research of what that house would be like up there and what they could get and what life would be like. See, that's fulfilling a destiny track that's inside of you. And, we talk a lot about not having desire, because desire on a spiritual path is saying that you're not okay the way you are, you don't have what you need, it'll be better when. But it's interesting that the root the root definition of desire is of the Father. In Latin, desire means of the Father. So there's a difference in longing and wanting something that maybe can or cannot come into fruition, and being perfectly content right where I am. If it never happens, fine, I'm good to go right here, right now. But wouldn't it be nice if, and then that little dream rises up of, well, gee, maybe I'd like to move to Hawaii, or maybe I'll move to Sedona. But then if it's a destiny of the Father, of that spiritual inner being, we start to take action on it. We do the investigation, we take action. Real quick example of that was my kid thought she wanted to be a nurse. And I mean from the little girl. Well, when I was 15, I got into trade school. I wanted to be that nurse. And so I tried to sign up, and it was full. But hairdressing was open. Well, I didn't have really that, but my dad wanted me to have a craft so that his daughter could take care of herself. We didn't have college-minded family. We weren't from a college-minded family, unfortunately. I would have probably enjoyed a lot of that, which I did later. But later on in life, this thing came up again when I started doing kid work. I want to be a nurse, I want to be a nurse. Well, I was already an accomplished makeup artist in the film business, had owned my own salon, had done all that, and had learned to really love it, because what I really loved to do was serve. You see, I wanted to serve. And in the nursing thing, what I wanted was to heal. I didn't know that. It wasn't that I wanted to change bedpans and draw blood at all. It was that I wanted to give, to serve, to heal. So it was transformed into this form of hairdressing. But in my early years of script work, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a nurse. She wouldn't get off it. So my sponsor said, you've got to go do something. So I was scared to death to go to college, because I had dropped out of high school, had gone back, gotten a GED, but I was scared to death. I was scared to death. Now this sounds stupid. I'm not a dumb person. I was scared to go to college. So she said, okay, honey, I just want you to drive over on the campus this week. Okay, the next week, now drive over on the campus. I want you to walk in and get a catalog. You don't have to read it. Just get it and bring it home. Then the next week I went and I read it, and then the next week I filled out papers, and then I baby-stepped my way through what was, quote, action for this fantasy that this kid wanted to do. I volunteered at the hospital as a liaison between the surgery room and the family waiting. I volunteered around town doing the things of this nature. And when I got to algebra, I had to get a tutor to get me through the first earliest of that mathematics. I stepped up one morning and I said, well, I'm done with that. I fulfilled what that fantasy was, but I took action on it. And guess what? It dissolved. So not all fantasies that you take action on come into fruition. Some of them, if you start to take the action, you burst them. You dissolve them, they're gone, and there's nothing in me now that wants to go back and be a nurse, And I saw that with tutoring, I could get through chemistry, I could do all that. It wasn't going to be worth it. It was the healing I wanted. And then it started coming through so strongly that my assignment was help to mend up the brokenhearted. It was the brokenhearted that were calling out to me, not the broken bodies, So that's just an example of fantasy versus dream, or desire of the Father. We have this wonderful saying about being self-supporting through our own contributions. I mean, it was hyped on in my early years of sobriety. You had to be self-supporting, and it didn't just mean financially. It means your script. It means your script. I have to be self-supporting. That means emotionally, physically, financially, romantically. self-supporting. I can't take me out there and expect you to do it. So it's a wonderful, these principles, they cross over so beautifully from script to the 12 steps. Through my own contributions, self-supporting through my own contributions. What does that mean? That means that I've got to open up a way to pour out there something, but the beautiful part of it is the value of that returns, that boomerang that we don't like when it's negative, is the class act when you're pouring out there what I'm doing for you, I'm doing for myself. Every single time I pick up the phone from someone else, I am boomeranging right back to me the help that I need. So what fruit do I have? And Joel talks about trees, and I just thought this was the most fabulous, ridiculous analogy of we're branches on a tree. We're on this spiritual tree. We're branches. And the different analogies of how we are as human beings, if we're a branch and we look down and we see a branch that isn't doing so well, do we try to reach down and take care of that branch? Or do we stand whole and we dig deeper into our trunk, sink our roots deeper down, turn our face more to the light, and we become, it ends up being an example really for the other branch of, no, turn toward the light, sink your roots deeper into God, deeper into truth, deeper into principle. And so that analogy is a beautiful analogy. Also, Joel talks about the fruit, and I was talking about pouring it out, finding a way to be of service, because the only supply, this is an axiom, the only supply you will ever know is that which you release out. And then it formulates and comes back to you, perhaps in the form of a check, perhaps in money, perhaps in help when you need it, a babysitter, whatever. But I have to open up a way of that splendor to be released. And the example again is back to a tree. A tree full of oranges doesn't create oranges the following year by eating its own oranges. Have you ever seen a tree eat its own oranges? Well, maybe eventually they all fall on the ground and they go back into the soil, perhaps. But they're not eating them. The fruit tree gives out for others to eat of it. And that's what we become when we're on this spiritual path. When we're taking care of our own needs, we then become a tree that the fruit starts to come out like this, and others can pick from that fruit. And then they share their fruit with us. But we can't consume our own fruitage. That's not the way supply works. Supply is a pouring, an opening, a giving out, whether it's painting, talent, painting furniture, leading workshops, just handing somebody an apple when they need one, just wiping up the coffee at a meeting when someone spills it. Just, for me, I pick up dog poop. When I go around and I see other people, I think, well, maybe they were on the phone, didn't see it, or maybe they ran out of a bag. The whole point is, if I see it, I get to pick it up. Because why? I don't want to step in dog shit. I don't want people to hate people to have dogs and walk them. So I try to help keep the planet clean when some of my brothers might be asleep at the time. I live in a community of very old people, and one day it occurred to me that some of those people that have those little dogs, it's their only love and companion they have, some of them can't bend over to pick that dog poop up, And it's not very bad around where I live, but if I see it, so what? It's impersonal. It's dog poop. Pick it up. It doesn't matter what dog dropped it, And so that's how I learned to pour out there, just to give and things of that nature. And that branch, keep that branch turning toward the light. Barbara made the statement, it may or may not be true, because I certainly now can feel the love coming at me. But the statement was the only love you really are ever going to feel is the love that you pour forth, that you release out there. And there was a time, I remember I was exactly about 37 years old, was the first time, actually the first time I ever remember experiencing love coming toward me was during my first fist step. And my sponsor had gone into the kitchen to pray because I had gone into that step without a God. She came out of the kitchen. She had been crying because she didn't know what to do with me after listening to this 7 hours of bullshit. And she came out, and the love literally just zapped out of her eyes and zapped me like radar or something. And that was the first time I ever saw love, you know. And then about a year later, I'd had arm surgery, and they hadn't prepared me for what it was going to be. And it was actually cosmetic because I had lost so much weight, and I had stuff hanging that had to go away. And a sponsee of mine, an older woman, but a food sponsee of mine came by. I was strapped out on boards like this. They hadn't told me that I wasn't going to be able to do things. Oh, you'll drive and you'll go back to work in a week or two. No, I was on boards for 6 weeks. It was ridiculous. She came by, and her and her husband swept me up and took me to their house. Said, you can't be here by yourself. And that woman loved me and nurtured me and treated me like I realized that my mother was incapable of doing. Didn't have the tools, didn't know how to do this, or couldn't after her experience. And I found out what love was like, to have someone take care of you. I'd never experienced that before. And I had never experienced love coming out of the eyes. And Chuck C. at my very first meeting said, if you want to know what God looks like, look into the eyes of the guy next to you. And I've never forgotten that, and I found that to be true. You know, the eyes are the windows of the soul, and we can release that love and that from that soul. If in those makeup and cleanup, if you broke it, fix it or replace it. You know, if you dirtied it, clean it up. Make it right. Make it right between you and God. If you're feeling like you have an abandonment script, if you really dig down under there, you find out that I had an abandonment script, and when I dug down, I found out it was I who abandoned me. And then these people out here can't do anything but read my script back. I abandoned me way before they just, she's abandoned. She's someone easy to abandon, you know, because I was showing them how to do it. If you get a glitch, it's that call to prayer. Stop. Okay, what's the kid feeling here? What's really going on? Doing the investigating, dropping back in. And that's what step 10 is in the 12 steps. Made direct amends to me. I got a glitch here. I'm resentful. I'm upset. I'm in fear. What's wrong, little kid? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of you're going to lose that you have? And what are you afraid of you're not going to get? And those are really the only two fears there are. I'm going to lose something I already have, or I ain't never going to get something I need or think I want. All right, these are the love steps. These are how I love them. These are how I love. So, coming up to, we've dropped all concern. We come up to living as a spiritual adult requires those 4 main principles: surrender, acceptance, forgiveness, and gratitude. Do you know how simple it is to forgive somebody if you know they're asleep? Some people stay asleep their whole life. They're just assholes their whole life. They're asleep. How do you blame them? How do I forgive this person? They're asleep. Now here's the corker for me was, how do I forgive me? I couldn't do it. Because my kid, smart as she was, thought she had been awake all that time. She couldn't let herself off the hook. She had, I had to pray for the willingness to have God forgive me, show me how to forgive me, because I just couldn't let her off the hook. I could let all of you off the hook, but I couldn't let me off the hook. And then I realized you're either awake, in the now, in the presence of God, or you're asleep. Now, how can you not forgive someone who's in their dream state, asleep, having a bloody nightmare? If your kid's having a nightmare, a kid out here is having a nightmare, or your friend's having a nightmare, when you go put your arms around it and say, honey, wake up. It's not real. It's not happening. The same here. And we get to those four things: acceptance, surrender, forgiveness, and mostly gratitude. Thank you, Father. Whatever's coming down, thank you, Father. Okay, that's enough out of me. Your turn. Who would you be? Do you need a break? You all need a bathroom break? Are you okay? Everybody okay? You okay in phone land?
I'm okay.
Good girl. Okay.
We're good in phone land.
You're good in phone land. Okay. All right then.
All good.
Yay. Okay then, who wants to go first with who would you be without your story, without your drama? Go ahead.
This is Kate.
Go ahead.
I was pondering that, and I realized that there would be really nothing for me to do except be a clear channel for higher power.
Bingo. It's so funny how you find out that you're going to probably be exactly what you are, doing exactly what you're doing. Very rarely is there something else, because you go, oh, it's okay. Right here, right now. I am that I am.
Yeah, there's nothing to fix.
No, right. Just be. Cool. Anybody want to make changes? Which is all part of the Father. A little part I want to mention that's very vital to my recovery on these steps, whether I'm at my 5th step or in the 12 steps and ready to move into humbly become willing, or if I am in drop all concern, which is number 5, 4 being forgiveness. The work that I do right in there after the investigation is the Byron Katie work. I pull up that sheet of investigation of is it true, and then everything I write down in judgment about you, I go back and put my name there. That is the best way for me. That was my key to getting to drop all concern. I couldn't drop all concern if I was still believing these negative things about you or myself. So if you're unfamiliar with that work, you can go online to thework.org and you can print out the 4 questions the sheet 4 questions, and you get to turn them around, and you get to be free, and you get to free everybody out there you're holding in that condemnation. And what you find out, as Kate was speaking of yesterday, you know, her father maybe being a negative, grumpy old man, it's not personal. It has nothing to do with her. It's just what he's doing. And whatever they're doing out there, it ain't to us. It's impersonal. They're going to do it whether we're present or not. Anybody have anything to share of how to move forward into their kingdom that would make them be, shall we say, more fruitful? Moving toward what they want? Yes, Cynthia.
Oh, I was just going to say, I happen to have the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, a Byron Katie one, if anybody wants copies interested. It's actually the worksheet that you write it down and the questions at the bottom.
Good.
Sure. I actually did one, and I did the whole thing, and I haven't done the turnaround part, so probably that's why I'm stuck there. But
yeah, well, it's easy to get stuck on, is it true? Because it appears to be true to the kid.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's like, I've been resistant to do that.
Well, and again, I'm going to repeat, if you're stuck in one point of any of the steps, the one previous to it isn't complete yet. You're having trouble with your 4th step, back up to have I really turned my will and life over. If you're having trouble with turning your will and life over, have I really come to believe there is a power greater? If you're having, maybe you haven't even admitted complete powerlessness over blank, blank, blank. So you can always back up, and the same with kids' steps. Whatever step you're stuck on, you back up to the one before and make sure you've completed that. Okay, I want to hear some, who would I be without my script?
Dulcie?
Yes.
Hi, so Del, I got stuck on the is it true, but there's another question after that, which is, are you absolutely certain that it's true?
Right.
That really helped me.
Yes. Can you really, really, really know it was true about that person? Yeah. Yeah. You know, so-and-so stole my stereo. Is it true? Well, it looks like it's true, but can I really, really know that that person didn't think that it should be his? I mean, I don't know. I can't think of a good example, but in other words, we don't know. We really don't know. We haven't walked in the moccasins of these people. We don't know what conditioning has created them to do, so we can't really, really know what was going on inside. Maybe the person that stole it was under the influence of drugs. So did that person really steal my stereo? No, the drugs stole the stereo. You know, there's things like that. Then once I get down to, I then turn it around, no matter what it is I think you've done to me, I put my name there and find that there is a way that I have done that to myself first, or it could never happen out there. If I hadn't somehow violated myself somehow, rejected myself somehow, abandoned myself somehow, you know. So, thank you, Adele. Anybody else?